When I'm ready for a new market, what indicator should I look at? So what I do, what I've done is I've looked at the country, and I've looked at 113 markets, 114 markets, 113, sorry. I've looked for a population base of a couple 100,000. I've got the city, I've got the state, I've got the population base, and I also have a link to Trulia where I'll look at Trulia's medians. I'll look at how the median's been fluctuating, if it's going up, if it's going down, if it's a good bell curve, that's a great thing. If it's a roller coaster, it's not so great. I'll look at Trulia's median, and then there are also the rent rolls, which I find a really good indicator. I want to know the month-on-month gain. I want that to be a positive, not a negative. So if I'm in a declining market, it doesn't excite me as much. But if I'm in an aggressive market that is climbing, then I got to be conscientious that I'm not hitting it at the peak, but I'm there. I like climbing. So let's take, for instance, I'm in Bakersfield, so let's take Bakersfield as a city as an example. So let me jump on Trulia. Okay, so I'm at Trulia. I went in there and I Googled median values Bakersfield, California. So whatever city you want to look at. Trulia, and then a whole bunch of them come up. I picked Trulia. I like Trulia's reporting mechanism. So it takes me to today's date, kind of thing. I'm looking at it today. And my one bedrooms in Bakersfield median is 84, two bedrooms are 120, three bedrooms are 201, fours or 275 for an average of all. Median is 221, 750. So if I look at my increases, and this is something that you guys really should look at in your cities, is what's the year on year for those individuals if they have that information. Coincidentally, on my one bedrooms, my year on year, one bedroom has gone up 118%. My two bedrooms year on year has gone down 5. My threes are up at 2 and 0.7. My fours are up at 1.9, so that's a 2. Not the craziest growth pattern, but not a bad. It's pretty stable. And I know right now my median, it's looking around 225, 224. When I look at that, now I want to look at my median rent, and my median rent's been climbing too, but it's been pretty steady. It's healthy. It's not skyrocketing. There's not a big influx of tenants. There's not a big, tenants aren't leaving fast, so it's not dropping. And my median rent right now is $1,425. So let's look at those two numbers and how they compare. And this is just a cursory review, very quickly. You're asking me, what do you look for as you enter into a new market? When you look at it from a new market, so you can dive in a little deeper. This is just cursory. So I know I have a $2.25 or $225,000 sales price or median, and I have a $1,425. So now let me go to a mortgage calculator. Today's rates on FHA, I think they're around 3.5%. So if I put the 3.5% in, let me do this real quick, on a 225. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to answer this question, but I want to answer it in a way that causes it to make the most sense. So I'm doing a PITI 225, 3.5%, 30-year mortgage, fully am. Click this button. Here we go. So I have a payment, principal interest payment of $1,010. I have a PITI payment of $1,385. Now the reason this is an important number to me is because I want the payment that's being returned on today's interest rate for PITI. Naturally, they're not figuring any mortgage insurance, but there's going to be a little bump there, but not a big bump. But I have a $1,385 on a mortgage payment on a $225,000 value. Now keep in mind, we just did the rent rolls, and the rent in my city is $1,425 as the median. So I know that the median sales price supports the median rent. So I have a natural flow of tenants moving from tenant occupied, from rentals to home ownership. I like that. Well, I can't stop here, so I'm going to go to ListSource. Here we are. We're at ListSource. So I'm going to go to geographical Bakersfield, California. I'm going to get that number. And I'm going to go to equity position. So, I want properties that are pretty much paid off. So I want to put in 99 to 100%. And it's going to give me back a number. Okay. Now I'm going to also, under the property tab, I'm going to look for only single families, because that's the only thing I really can care about. I don't care about apartments. I don't care about multifamily. I don't care about any of that kind of stuff. I just want single families. It's going to give me a result. And then one of the last searches, I'm going to look for is how many absentee owners there are with that criteria. And now I'm going to go and look at last sale date, which is the important number. So keep in mind that in Bakersfield, California, my market, my median's 225. My rents are 14 something. My payment on a 225 is 13 something. So I'm fine there. I can have a $200 spread. So my payments could be, $1,600 and, something kind of dollars. And I'd be fine with that. But in this case, in my case, it's actually rent's a little cheaper. Now I want to know how many investors are buying in my market for cash and what the numbers have been over 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, and a year. I want to see what my pattern is, if I'm on a declining market pattern, increased market pattern, or stable market pattern, because I absolutely don't want to get into anything that's not stable. So month on month, year on year, what's my pattern been in my city? So if I go here, so I know I have now, again, I've got my city, I've got single families, I've got absentee owned, 99 to 100% equity. That means I paid cash. And in the last year, it tells me that close to 400 folks have bought a house for cash. Well, that's not bad, 35 a month. Right? Not bad. If I look at the last 6 months, I have 100, almost 200. So that's about right. A year it was close to 400. Last 6 months, close to 200. That's about right. That means 6 months ago and on, it was pretty stable. So now let's go to the last 3 months. The last 3 months is almost 100, almost 200. So now if I go to the last month, and it's hard to look at the last month as an only indicator because some of the records hasn't caught up to the reporting system. And so theoretically it should be like 33, but it's not going to be, and it's not going to be in very few areas are going to be that accurate for a month-on-month data, which is why we look. It's 10. So they're missing some. So I'm not going to worry about the 10 because I'm just not. So I know in my city, I have a median at 225. I have rents that are median out at 1425. I have a mortgage payment on 225 of 1385. So I'm under my rent roll. And every month, about 33 houses sell to an investor for cash. Cash. I'm not talking about all the other investors that buy. I'm not talking about all the owner occupants that buy. I just want to know that how many, what's my potential pattern of sales and purchases. This not bad at all. That's not bad at all. It's one a day. So I like my market. So if I was going to go to a market, I'd do this really fast, this exercise. The other exercise I do is I go back to list source and I'd ask myself how many single families are in that market. And I'd really want to know, if I get a good number of single families and then what the percentage of cash purchases are to those single family units, if I get a good percentage there, I'm going to be extremely happy.